Well, I think there's several things. I think Trump knows that he has. God bless it. I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. Oh, Jesus, that's bad. That's really bad. God. Yeah.
Welcome to Side Convo with your host, Bob Phipps. Your panelists today are Ted Johnson, Don Thomas, Bill Russell, and it's Joe Boy. And now, your host, Bob Phipps.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the after the election get-together, which arguably could be the most important one we ever do because, it has been so contentious and understandably, and the personalities and everything involved. And now it's back to the people. Now it's back to us. And on my favorite show, West Wing, President Bartlett or Martin Sheen, would always turn to the group and say, "What's next?" So that's what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to try to do it in the Uber discourse method, which is without mentioning people's names. It's going to be very hard this time, but what we want to look forward to is what are the changes likely to be, because we know sometimes the rhetoric during an election is totally over the top. Always has been. We've had shows on this, but let's face it. There's going to be changes in these next 4 years. So what the hell are we going to do, and what's it going to look like, and how is it going to be tempered so that our country can stay together and still be the greatest country in the world? At least that's on Earth. At least that's the way I like to think of it. But then again, I'm rose-colored, and I like to see everything good. So Ted, I'm going to start out with you. What is the thing that you would like to make sure we talk about today as the changes that most concern you? I know there's a lot of them, but stick to the first one then, and we'll go from there.
Well, I think there's several things. I think Trump knows that he has. God bless it. I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. Oh, Jesus, that's bad. That's really bad. God. Yes, I get smacked. The newly elected understands that he wants to move very fast, and I look for executive orders on such things as stripping funding away from things like the Department of Education, probably the Department of Energy, such things as regulatory processes that are in order now that maybe get shifted out or put on the back stove. And then finally, I think if that person goes after immigration, the biggest issue is how you're going to go after immigration, because an executive order on immigration will be challenged in the courts. And on top of that, you may have to set up a whole agency to be able to do those deportations.
Okay, so better stop there, Ted. The show's only a half hour. Okay,
I know,
let's go. Let's go over to Bill. Bill, what do you think that most, I'm not necessarily concern you, but what you want to see done in the changes in the future?
Well, Ted just expressed many of the things I want to see done. Certainly want to see implement the issues of those who have crossed into the country illegally, how to get those out, and certainly the incoming president has a model that worked for him when he was last president on cutting off the ties that bring folks in. The other part of this is that what he can't accomplish by executive fiat in terms of, or by executive order, as the incoming president, he's got an incoming House and Senate that is going to support him, and they can push through by law and through the legislature many of those programs that they would do. For example, cutting funding to the Department of Education or redirecting it to more productive areas and cutting out those troublesome bureaucrats who undercut the president's policy at every turn.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about that in a minute, what that comes in. Don, what you want to talk about today?
Well, I'm on board with Ted, but also my biggest concern is because of the last administration, when who was in charge, won't have the same people there. I'm concerned about the more radical people being implemented into the new administration. I'm very concerned about that, being more powerful positions, the ones that were radical. So I'm concerned about that part. But I also like to see, I don't want to see a revenge list going out.
Yeah. No,
I'm
it's
really
true.
concerned about that going out. Revenge list is not going to be productive for nobody. And when I believe in karma, what you put into is going to come out. So.
All right. Yeah, Don, I think this is interesting. I think the whole concept of executive orders and also the staffing, I think there's going to be more attention paid to those issues than ever has been in the past. Does anybody really know what they do? I think it's going to be tracked. I think that people are going to know those executive orders and are going to really look at those people that are being put in here. Joe Boy, what's your opening thoughts?
Well, I actually have two thoughts on this. I am concerned about how they're going to deal with the lawsuits and the criminal charges sentencing port. I think that's going to blow up into some massive thing. But I'm looking forward to seeing whether or not Elon Musk actually helps, because I've seen what he can do, and he's done some great things that he's able to do cheaper and better and faster than any other government bureaucrat. And if he helps, I think that'll make a big difference to our country, and I think this coming up administration might actually allow him to help, and that is what I am hopeful for.
Ted, let me have you to reply to that then, the Joe's first thoughts on Elon Musk. Do you see that he could make a difference?
The second second rule of argument is make a person define his terms, and for Joe Boy, we're going to go with efficiency. Now, a lot of people in the Department of Education, what do? Is it up to Elon or some staff to determine that's not all that important, or that could be shoved on to someone else? How do you go about those processes and those rules and regulations that you do or do not follow? And that's the type of thing, again, how it comes about. Finally, another thing real quick, Bob, is that will the new president try to, again, overturn Affordable Care Act?
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to take some work. I mean, I see it every day, obviously, in my CPA firm, and it works for a lot of people. There are probably other things that can be done to make insurance and all this more efficient. I don't know. Medical's just way over the top. Bill, why don't you choose the next thing? What would you like to say? Because I know that you think that the government and federal employees need to be looked into, don't you?
Oh, yeah, we certainly need to get rid of a lot of the people in the bureaucracies. And just for an example, with the Department of Education could completely go away. Just push it back down to the states, let the states make their decisions, and push all of those decisions down to the local level, get the federal government out of it. You could probably do away with the entire thing. Just use the Social Security Administration to distribute that funding directly to the individual children and attach those funds to the individual children to go to the school of the parent's choice. So, I mean, there's lots of ways that can be solved and become much more efficient and greatly improve education in America. But the biggest thing we have to do is get the federal government out of it and take power away from the national teachers unions.
Interesting. Don, do you have any thoughts on that? I know you were a federal employee, right?
Yeah, you can't go after the middle class federal employees, the guys. That's the backward. That's hard. These guys are like at TSA. We were the lowest paid agency in the government, and got guys struggling trying to make it. When there's a government shutdown, we still had to work and not getting paid for like 6 weeks. We had to suffer without any weeks, and most of them guys are paycheck to paycheck. So I just won't target the middle class government workers. You may want to look at Congress, how Congress is making money, you want to look at that area. You want to look at, limit them to money and problems. Put them on a regular payroll like everybody else. No special needs, no special gyms. Have them on a regular schedule like everybody else, and then look at it that way. You can save a lot of money that way.
I bet
let Joe Boy talk. I'm going to ask Bill a question afterwards, but go ahead.
Okay, Joe.
You want me to talk?
Yeah.
Well, I guess when it comes to education, I do think it needs to be kicked back to the states. I think that we have decided for some reason to have a national, we know more than everybody else, and we think everyone should have identical education. And that's just unrealistic. Some people want to be doctors and some people don't. Some people want to work in a farm and they want to run the family farm. And so having everyone with exactly the same education is in that way kind of dumb. I think state by state we'll make it a little bit more fair, allow rural countries or rural states to have the education they want to have, and everyone will contribute what they want to put into their education, including through property taxes or however taxes each state wants to do for it. And guess what? They can vote for that.
Gotcha. All right, Ted, throw out the question to Bill. We need more.
Bill, when you say it goes back to the states, you want someone from the Social Security Administration determining whether how many funds go to classes for autistic students or special needs students. Oh, what do you do about this? The high achievers who are actually twiddling their thumbs and don't do anything to do. You want that to go to? I said, Bill, you want that to go into the Social Security, another administration? So in other words, disbursement of funds. The other thing is disbursement of funds. Who does it? Who does it? Who's the expert? And we have people in the Department of Education, and that's what they do. They study who needs the money, who gets more rural money, farm aid money, who gets more special education money, who gets higher education money. The state taxes go a lot to that too. But the determination factor is that way you don't have segregation in Mississippi. That's why we go to a federal rule on schooling, Joe Boy.
Yeah.
I think if we actually remove the funding instead of keeping the funding going, we remove the program, we remove the funding, and let the states do the funding. Shockingly, people will have better school choice and actually solve their problems rather than the government telling them what to do.
Oh, you mean like segregated schools, like in Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida? Let's go back to that.
Yeah, well, you got a problem with it going back to the states, because what if some states want to hold back their money and hold back the education? Like in California, can just say, the hell with you guys, we're going to keep all our stuff here. We ain't going to give you guys nothing. And we all know that the whole United States depends on California.
I think you're overestimating the value of California, but
I doubt that.
Yeah, the state of California is responsible for a lot of the southern states, you know. A lot of their money, they can hold back. If you want to put the power back.
Now, if I could have a moment to answer Ted's question.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, Ted asked the question as to, in terms of who's going to make the decisions on who's going to take care of, the gifted children, the children who have special needs. Those decisions would be made by the parents. When I talked about funding through the Social Security Administration, what I was talking about is having the Social Security Administration distribute equal amount of funds per student. You take the federal budget available, determine how many students there are in the United States, which the Social Security Administration would have that information based on Social Security numbers, and then those funds are attached to the child, and those go to an educational account for the kid, and that's where they get the federal voucher from. All of the decisions are passed back down to the states, but most importantly, instead of all the decisions being made by the states, those decisions should be made by the parents and the guardians who have the greatest interest in the success of the child.
Okay, Bill, that doesn't make any sense either. So you have a cost per student in Mississippi that's $300. Let's call it $3,000 a year. In California, it's $15,000 a year. You're going to equate that, so that's $9,000 to California to balance it out for $9,000 to Mississippi.
Well,
in terms of cost of buildings,
the reason why it should be state level instead of national. That sounds like a great
idea.
Let the states figure it out.
The point is that that's exactly
all right. We're going to move past.
So
okay,
we'll go back to segregation again, or less have and have not.
Well, the only segregation I see anywhere seems to be in the colleges, where they always want to have, separate for genders and separate for this. That's not totally full. Hold on a second. Okay, we're going to take our first break. Subscribe on YouTube. Just get here to see this thing, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810. The Tibia Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator bites. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now. Get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com.
All right, let's go on to the next. Probably what I thought was going to be the biggest subject was going to be immigration. You know, how the heck can you mass deport all these dadgum people? Ted and I have been talking about it over the past couple of days. But immigration is an interesting one. I think that everyone, you know, in all the shows we've ever done on immigration, everyone agrees that, yeah, we need to have borders, that we're a country, we have borders. But how would you possibly even do a mass deportation? Ted, I'm going to go on and start with you because you and I have already talked about it. Is that your biggest concern in this whole thing is what the heck they're going to do to tear our country apart? Is that how you see it?
Well, it's funny that people who want less government, I'm going to probably have to create what I assume is some type of agency that involves border agents as well as immigration agents, hire a bunch of people, facilities. You're talking about detention facilities. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars. Not only that, you're talking about tens of thousands of people that have to be hired and trained and then upgraded into the standards that meet the U.S. criteria for like equal rights. And then you go about and do what? Go house to house, separate. Oh, wait, you came in 2 days after the cutoff date, therefore you're out. So all these issues are going to be pending. And I don't think it's going to be easy at all. All it proves is that xenophobic campaign statements do work in the U.S.
Yeah, that does. Okay, who on the right wants to talk about how this could work?
Well, I mean, I'm finding this one to be difficult because I don't know how many buildings they have to do to get them out of the country. You put them on a plane and get them out of the country. Do they need training to say he, sure, hey, they, or whatever it is you want to call them when they leave? We want people to leave that don't belong there. Whether or not we being polite about it, you broke into the country, and now
how do you know that?
Leave.
How do you know that?
How do you know that?
Start with the jails and find out who in jail is illegal and get them out of the way.
They're on their way back. That's why they're in jail.
No, they're not.
Well, how about we just
what
send
happens
them now instead of waiting to find out whether or not anymore? If they're not a citizen and they're in jail, they go back immediately. And if you know what, and we can even make it easy. We can get nice planes to Iraq and send them all there. We don't worry about sending them to their home country.
What the hell?
Okay, hold on. Hey, Joe. Hey, hold on a sec.
Why don't we separate children from mothers and send the mother to Guatemala and the child back to Mexico? That's already happened under the past president.
Well, it's happened under more than one. Okay, Don. Yeah, let's go to you, and then Bill has some experience with this. So, Don, what are your thoughts on the whole mass deportation?
Being working for the government, working for agencies, trying to train all these people, like what Ted had said, and get all this to have an army. You're going to have an army try to get all these illegal immigrants out and training people. You're going to run into tons of problems. Even when they put together TSA, you got people who are power hungry and get power stuff. You got people that are going to be abusive to people. People are going to abuse your power. There's going to be a lot of problems with this because you got to go to door. You got to stop and frisk people. You won't know. You talk about money. You talk about millions and billions of dollars for this to even happen. You got so many laws you have to get passed by for this to even happen. So I don't think it's
all right. Well, okay, I want to go to Bill.
Okay,
hold on. Let's go over to Bill because Bill's seen some of this in his job. Bill, what are you doing now? By the way, you know you've seen some of this.
As a former prosecutor, when we had people come in who were on the illegal list, we couldn't even address it at the county and state level. When you had somebody popped on a DUI, if they were here illegally, that could not. We couldn't. In many states, you're forbidden even to hold them for ICE, or where ICE was forbidden from implementing those policies based on the arrest of someone who was here in an illegal status. That's one aspect. The other part of it that worked very well with the new president in his first term was that he eliminated many of the carrots that were used to encourage illegal immigration and that are used by the current administration, such as the EBT cards, the free travel away from the border, just catch and release. He held them at the border. I mean, yes, there's always problems, but the current system as we have it now is simply increasing the levels of human trafficking coming across the border, the flow of drugs into the country. It's untenable, and we've got to implement. And the best way to do it is the combination of policies so that when they come into the eyes of law enforcement, when they come into the eyes of law enforcement and are in the legal system, they can be identified, held, and deported. Those that are here illegally, that are not paying the proper taxes or are under the
Already
radar.
here.
If they're already here illegally, they can self-deport because they're going to self-deport because you cut off, well, as I said, the carrots. You cut off the EBT cards. You cut off the additional.
But they're not illegals, though.
Yes, they are illegals.
Yeah, but
if they cross the border, they are here illegal.
EBT card and was legally given to them. They're not illegal. I'm talking about the people that snuck across the border without being documented or anything. Those people that have cards and stuff that they're documented, so they're here on a legal basis already.
Okay, so their visas expire, and they start losing benefits, and they are given the opportunity to go home peacefully and to sell off the whatever they need to and leave.
They're not illegal.
Yes, they are, or they were. Just because somebody waved a magic wand and broke the law to give them that ID card does not make them legal.
Hey, Bill, for what it's worth, a simple search says ICE can be contacted if an immigrant is arrested.
ICE can be contacted, but ICE was not implementing it under the current administration. They were not cooperating. And then you had states like many of the cities in California that call themselves sanctuary cities that refuse to cooperate with ICE and the federal deportation system.
And so why do you think they did that?
Because they're idiots.
Oh, really?
There's no other way around it.
Not sensitive to human suffering or the threats of their lives or people seeking a better way of life.
No, these were people seeking power based off a bumper sticker level analysis of the problem and just trying to ingratiate themselves to earn votes and keep themselves in power. And what have they done? What have they done to California? What have they done to San Francisco? Case closed.
Bill, you're not going to go there. San Francisco's fine. Don't believe it or not. San Francisco is not a waste pool. It's the most beautiful city in the country. So don't even go there. And everything's just fine in San Francisco.
I've been to San Francisco, pal. I've been to San Francisco, Ted.
They're beautiful tents. They're beautiful tents where you can order and get drugs. There are beautiful.
All right.
You got billions and billions and billions.
Oh boy, let's go to Orlando. I bet we see the same thing.
Nowhere near.
You're right. There is nowhere near.
Okay, change the subject. I want to know what people know about tariffs, because tariffs is something that's thrown out there. And from what I understand, our country, prior to income tax, actually, that's how they raised all their money was tariffs. Okay, so what I'm going to want to do is after our break, I'd like to hear something about tariffs and as to why we should or shouldn't do this. And again, like us on Facebook, YouTube. Please subscribe to thirdsideconvo.com, and we'll be right back after our last message from our sponsors.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
It looks like no matter what the issue we talk about, there's still some details that might have been lacking during the campaign on how all of this was going to be done. That seems to be what politicians do, isn't it? Which is why I can't stand them, which is why this show exists. Let's understand a little bit about tariffs. Who understands the tariffs? I know Ted does, but I'm trying to start. Don or Joe? Y'all have some thoughts on tariffs? Well, Joe, I know you do. Joe, you got thoughts because you know computers.
Yeah, Joe'll be better at that.
Well, let's put it this way. Computers cost money. And China is where we get a lot of our parts. China and Japan. And guess what? They cost money. China has bought all the earth metals, and they buy all the access to earth metals that have to be used to make these components, and we just throw them away. And we're trying to recycle, but it actually costs more to recycle than to send our trash back to China and let them do it. So here's our question is, if we're going to send tariffs, it's going to raise prices. But it's going to raise prices to certain things. It's going to raise prices to batteries, to lithium, to computer parts. But it's going to force us to do more things locally. And I think that's a good thing. I think we are sending a lot of our stuff overseas, and we need more locally. And I think that is going to be helpful. How much and whether or not we're going to take an initial hit, we're going to find out.
All right.
And,
Don or Ted, what's the downside to tariffs? Who wants to take that?
Tariffs were. I'm sorry, Don. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man, because I'm not the expert on tariffs. So
tariffs were needed early on in our country. We had infant industries, and they were needed to protect us from outside agencies like England or France. And so we wanted to develop our own agencies. Now we have a worldwide economy, and we depend on them buying our stuff as much as we want to protect our own stuff. We ship out a bunch of stuff from Caterpillar tractors to, I don't know, IT development. But is that all going to be tariffed? So I think you want an open free market, and tariffs argue against the open market sensation or open market idea. That's the first thing. The second thing is who decides what gets tariffed. One of the things the ex-president did was washer machines. They went up 30 to 50% on tariffs. Washer machines. Why? Why washer machines? Because he wanted to protect Westinghouse or whomever. So I think you might want to see certain things. Finally, on lithium, we have two great large lithium deposits in the country. One is outside the Salton Sea in Southern California. One is in the north central desert that extends in from Nevada into Idaho. They are in the process of being developed.
So they're okay. We're okay on that. We're okay. I know there's all sorts of other minerals that Joe Boy is right that China's gone out of their way to secure the rights. That's why they loan these countries
magnets.
Money.
They own 98% of all earth magnet refineries and access and so forth. They were very smart. I'll give them credit. They kind of knew where things were going, and they bought it. And now we have to figure out what we're going to do about it.
All right, for our we've killed tariffs there. Let's talk about one more thing.
One thing about tariffs.
Yeah.
One thing about the tariffs, I do believe if companies are here in the United States, but their workforce is in another country and they want to sell goods back into the United States, I believe you should tariff the shit out of them, because that'd be a good move. I think you know who did that with John Deere.
Right.
They were doing all their products out of the country and trying to sell it back to us, sell it back to the farmers, and you know who tax the hell out of them.
Got it.
Now, there's just one more quick point on tariffs that we can't overlook is that there are certain governments, and China's a big offender on this, where their government, the Chinese government, specifically the Chinese Communist Party, heavily subsidizes and seizes control of certain industries economically, which they then use to dump to try to undercut the development of certain businesses. And so there is an important aspect to tariffs that can serve to counterbalance that and protect our own industries.
Which is why our outgoing president put a high tariff on solar panels made in China.
Yeah. Well, and then now, we've got the problem with intellectual theft that goes on in China, and that's a real problem. And I know tariffs are used
going on
as
for years.
Yeah, it's a very long problem.
Exactly. Yeah, apparently they've now duplicated the SpaceX rockets, that type thing. All right, we only got a couple of minutes left. Probably nothing else we talk about, but let's just real quickly go around. We're going to take our 30 seconds for everybody on the environment. And we've never had a whole show on this because we've never had enough great people to do it. But on the environment, what is your concern, Ted? What you might do to the environment?
Take off the regulations. Such thing as what can go into the sky through smokestacks, coal plants. He wants to return to coal plant burning. Cut back on green energy, especially windmills, solar panels, solar farms. They're all successful.
Gotcha.
It takes a lot of time. It takes investment. If he cuts back on that, what's he got to do? He's pro petroleum, but also Elon Musk, which makes electrical cars. Is he going to give them benefits to both?
I don't know.
How?
All right. Okay. Next, Joe Boy, your final thoughts on specifically about the environment, what they're likely to do there.
When it comes to the environment, it's pretty simple. punish people who do bad things. If you make all these regulations that they can't innovate, they can't do anything until, then you're going to create problems. But if someone does something, you wipe out that company, you remove their assets, you punish them greatly for any crimes or anything they do that hurts the environment. It's really that simple, but no one's willing to do it.
Okay, so you're not wanting to get rid of the EPA, anything like that. Those regulations still need to be there. Ted, you were concerned about that. Don, any environmental concerns you've got as final thoughts?
Yes, mine's based on the climate, man. We got to get serious. Have a couple of a national plan or world plan to handle this, because it is getting pretty bad out there. And I think we need to come up with a plan that even the citizens have to get involved with it, not just the government. For example, we give money to a national debt thing to help pay for problems in people's houses, insurance companies. We all have to be in together, because
you're right. Yeah, you're right. It's all okay. Bill, your final thoughts. Does something need to be done there?
Well, I think we need to hold those who do bad things accountable. So, for example, all those windmills that are killing our eagles and multiple birds more than any coal plant ever did, we need to hold them accountable.
It doesn't happen. That's a myth.
I've seen it happens all over.
No, it doesn't.
And
You didn't get his 30 seconds. Y'all
Okay.
can minute each. Oh,
All
my
right.
God.
Okay,
those
I threw that.
coal-powered
Listen,
cars like
hold
Joe
on a
Boy
second.
drives.
I threw this out for a reason. Joe Boy has been telling me, we're going to wrap up the show now, but Joe Boy's been telling me that one of the problems we got is we need to put all of our comments on the site. So here's what I want you to do. Will you please, Bill, on the show's comments, once the show gets on, it would take a couple of days for Joe to put it on the comments, please reply on this and give Ted some of what you've read. He'll then come back to you. We need to do that as part of the show. It's the way we're going to get views. We've got to get this word out here. Ted, I love you to death. Don, I couldn't do this without you. Bill, last second coming in. And Joe Boy, as always, my producer and best buddy to this thing. Thank you so much. We have the ability to talk and be friends. This is the Third Side Convo. Signing off. Please subscribe. Please like us, and we'll be back again. Third Side Convo. Thank you.